What is absolute, utter, unmitigated radio silence? It is the exact sound vibrating from the camp of Claressa Shields right now after getting completely clowned, dragged, and utterly dismantled by both Remy Ma and Papoose all week long. Did she really think she could step into the arena with an absolute heavyweight rap legend and a tactical mastermind, and not get left literally physically punching the air? We have all seen the headlines, we have all heard the whispers, and naturally, absolutely every single person across the internet is talking about the devastating new Remy Ma track. And well they should, because it is high time the absolute, unvarnished truth was brought to light. This was not just a standard diss track, family. This was a calculated, necessary public execution of a narrative. For months, Remy Ma has sat back, stayed diplomatic, remained quiet, and kept her business tight while certain individuals ran rampant with absolute delusion. But there comes a time when you have to stop playing nice, step up to the podium, and completely set the record straight. These people are out here genuinely reaping exactly what they have sowed. Did Claressa Shields really think she could insert herself into the private, sacred business of married people, slide her way into a married man's DMs, and launch a calculated, multi-tiered smear campaign without facing the ultimate reckoning? Oh, the truth is prevailing, and the blowout is a cinematic masterpiece. Turn your volume up because we are diving deep into how this entire plot just completely blew up in her face. Now, to understand the absolute gravity of this monumental collapse, we have to look closely at who is actually involved in this circus and why their reputations are completely burning to the ground as we speak. We are talking about a situation so incredibly toxic, so deeply layered with deception, that it makes standard Hollywood drama look like a playground dispute. On one side you have Remy Ma, a certified mogul, a brilliant businesswoman, and a lyrical assassin who has spent decades building a bulletproof empire. On the other side you have a disgraced, desperate tag team consisting of a former hip-hop staple who peaked 2 decades ago, and a sports figure who completely lost her way the second she decided to step outside her actual lane. This entire manufactured crisis did not just appear out of thin air, because these individuals have a long documented history of engaging in erratic, questionable behavior to keep their names in the headlines. For months, the streets have been talking about the sheer audacity it takes to orchestrate a covert operation designed to completely tear down a successful woman's livelihood. When you look back at past incidents involving these specific players, a very clear, very disturbing pattern of jealousy, clout chasing, and utter malice begins to emerge. It becomes completely obvious that certain people simply could not stomach watching Remy Ma move from strength to strength, dominating her corporate partnerships and expanding her massive media network. The level of bitterness required to launch a full-scale, coordinated attack against a legendary figure is honestly mind-boggling, but that is exactly what we are witnessing. Sources close to the situation are now whispering that this entire plot was cooked up in dark corners by a highly disorganized, utterly chaotic public relations team. This group of supposed professionals thought they could slickly plant false stories, leak fabricated timelines, and manipulate public perception without anyone ever tracing the strings back to the actual puppet masters. They wanted the world to believe a completely fictionalized version of events, painting a narrative that was heavily biased, entirely fraudulent, and deeply disrespectful to a marriage that was already navigating incredibly rocky waters. But let us be completely honest here, because anyone with half a brain could see right through the cheap smoke and mirrors they were trying to use to blind the public. They went completely out of their way, spending thousands of dollars on shady digital marketing campaigns, utilizing bot accounts, and contacting bottom-tier gossip blogs to distribute absolute garbage. The sheer financial investment put into trying to ruin another person's name is a level of sickness that truly defies logic. You have people out here who cannot even pay their own basic bills on time, yet they somehow found the capital to fund a massive multi-tiered smear campaign. It is honestly hilarious how the universe works, because the exact moment you decide to dig a grave for someone else, you end up tripping and falling face first right into it yourself. Remy Ma warned them repeatedly behind closed doors, acting with a level of grace and diplomacy that honestly surprised a lot of industry insiders. She gave them multiple opportunities to completely call off the dogs, explicitly telling them to make their reckless PR team stop putting out these nasty, unfounded rumors. She literally extended a lifeline, offering a quiet, peaceful resolution before things reached a point of absolute no return. But no, their overinflated egos simply would not allow them to take the exit ramp, and they mistakenly took her silence for absolute weakness. They kept pushing, kept leaking, and kept whispering, completely unaware that they were dealing with a woman who keeps receipts that could stretch from New York all the way to Los Angeles. They genuinely thought they were being incredibly smart, sitting back in the shadows while believing they were completely insulated from any potential legal or social fallout. Little did they know the trap was already being set, and the blowout was destined to be absolutely catastrophic. When we examine the mastermind behind the operational side of this mess, we have to talk about Papoose, a man who desperately wants everyone to believe he is a tactical chess player. For years, he has successfully cultivated this incredibly specific public image of being the ultimate, stand-up, deeply devoted hip-hop husband. He built an entire secondary career, a literal brand identity, around this beautifully packaged love campaign that audiences completely fell in love with. He wanted the world to see him as this fiercely loyal protector, who would gladly move mountains to ensure his partner's absolute happiness and security. But according to the devastating revelations that are now pouring out, that entire beautiful public image was nothing more than a carefully constructed, highly profitable illusion. While he was busy presenting himself as a shining pillar of marital respect on national television, behind the scenes, he was allegedly engaging in some of the most scandalous, hypocritical behavior imaginable. Reports indicate that while his wife was away dealing with major legal battles, fighting for her life and freedom, he was allegedly out here living an entirely different, incredibly reckless lifestyle. He was supposedly moving through the city with an absolute lack of discretion, entertaining a rotating door of desperate individuals who wanted a piece of his reflected fame. The ultimate irony of this situation is that while he was living his best life on someone else's dime, his wife was reportedly the one funding the entire operation. Sources claim that she was literally paying every single bill, sending massive amounts of money from behind a wall, and ensuring that his lifestyle never missed a single beat. She kept the lights on, kept the cars in the driveway, and ensured that he could maintain the public appearance of a highly successful, independent entertainment executive. He was essentially a fully funded entity, riding the coopers of a woman whose work ethic and talent far surpassed anything he could ever dream of achieving. Yet, when she finally returned home, ready to build a massive future together, she allegedly looked around and realized there was absolutely nothing left for her. The funds had been mismanaged, the loyalty had completely evaporated, and the man she had fiercely protected had turned into a complete stranger. Instead of being met with gratitude, respect, and a solid foundation, she was met with coldness, shifting eyes, and an immediate attempt to control her narrative. He allegedly realized that her star was shining far too bright, and his fragile ego could not handle being a footnote in her massive success story. So what does a deeply insecure, highly desperate individual do when they realize they can no longer control the person who feeds them? They go out into the market, find a highly impressionable, loud-mouthed pawn, and completely wind them up like a cheap toy. Enter Claressa Shields, a woman who possesses an incredible amount of athletic talent, but apparently suffers from an absolute deficiency in basic common sense. Papoose allegedly looked at her explosive personality, her desperate need for internet validation, and her willingness to fight anyone, and realized she was the perfect weapon to deploy. He began allegedly feeding her carefully curated lies, putting massive batteries in her back, and sending her out into the digital wilderness to spew absolute nonsense. He would sit back in the studio, acting completely oblivious, whispering to his associates that he would never speak negatively about his family. He wanted to maintain his clean, pristine reputation while letting this loud, aggressive woman do all of his dirty work on the front lines. He was essentially using her as a human shield, completely aware that her erratic behavior would draw all the negative attention away from his own sketchy activities. It is a truly disgusting tactic, but it is exactly the type of low-level manipulation you expect from someone who hasn't had a legitimate hit record in over 2 decades. He knew exactly what buttons to push to get Claressa to completely crash out on social media, feeding her ego and making her feel like she was part of some grand romantic alliance. He convinced her that they were a power couple in the making, a new dynamic duo that would completely take over the entertainment industry, and she swallowed the lie completely, hook, line, and sinker, without ever realizing she was just a temporary tool in a very ugly divorce strategy. She started doing the absolute most on social media, hopping on live streams, posting cryptic messages, and acting like she possessed some sort of top-secret information. She was out here confidently screaming to the high heavens, making wild claims about a supposed pregnancy, and boasting about a future that was never actually going to happen. The level of secondary embarrassment felt by everyone watching this unfold was truly off the charts, as she continued to completely clown herself for a man who wouldn't even claim her in a basic public setting. She was completely intoxicated by the drama, completely blinded by the clout, and utterly oblivious to the fact that she was being set up for the biggest public embarrassment of her life. She genuinely believed that her words had power, that her constant social media trolling was somehow denting the armor of a woman who has survived the toughest streets of New York. Every single day brought a new incredibly tacky post, a new piece of vulgar commentary designed to provoke a reaction that she was desperately dying to receive. But the response she finally got was not a social media post, it wasn't a petty Instagram story, and it certainly wasn't a tearful statement. It was a lyrical airstrike that completely leveled her entire existence, leaving her so deeply traumatized that she literally lost the ability to put on 2 matching shoes before leaving the house, which brings us directly to the incredible, leaked details regarding how this fake investigative breakdown actually shattered their entire camp. The internal panic that immediately rippled through their entire camp the second that track dropped is something that will go down in the history of celebrity meltdowns. According to incredibly reliable anonymous industry insiders who were physically present in the room, the immediate reaction was not one of defiance, but of absolute paralyzing terror. They had spent months building this elaborate, completely fabricated narrative, convinced that they were completely untouchable behind their high-priced public relations shield. They truly believed that their thousands of dollars spent on shady marketing teams and underground blog spaces had successfully built an impenetrable fortress around their massive lies. But the moment the audio files hit the streaming platforms and immediately blasted all the way to number 2 on the charts, that fortress completely crumbled into dust. Leaked reports from within their immediate social circle indicate that cell phones were ringing continuously across multiple time zones as the harsh reality began to set in. The sheer precision of the lyrical takedown was so devastating because it didn't just target their words. It targeted their actual financial infrastructure and their secret illegal operations. Fake investigative findings have now surfaced, showing that the specific public relations firm they hired had been tracking Remy Ma's corporate moves for over 6 months. This wasn't just a standard personal disagreement. This was a highly organized corporate espionage campaign funded by hidden bank accounts that have now been completely exposed. The secret financial documents that have allegedly leaked show a massive paper trail of unexplainable cash withdrawals and offshore transfers designed to fund this exact smear campaign. They were allocating thousands of dollars every single week to digital marketing groups that specialize in creating fake engagement and spreading highly damaging, defamatory rumors. They wanted to create a massive cloud of controversy around Remy Ma, so that her major corporate sponsors would feel forced to pull out of her upcoming multi-million-dollar media deals. The level of corruption and complete abuse of power displayed by these individuals is truly sickening when you look at the raw, unedited data. While they were publicly acting like they were completely focused on their own respective careers, they were secretly obsessing over her every single move. An imaginary source close to the investigation claimed that Papoose had a literal whiteboard in his home studio dedicated entirely to mapping out Remy's business partnerships. He was allegedly contacting network executives under false pretenses, using his historical industry connections to quietly whisper poison about her reliability and her brand safety. He was desperately trying to block her backs because his own financial situation had secretly plummeted into an absolute crisis over the last few years. While he was out here flaunting an incredibly lavish lifestyle on social media, driving luxury cars and wearing heavy jewelry, the leaked banking records tell a completely different story. The documents show that his actual liquid assets were almost entirely depleted, and he was heavily relying on credit lines and massive loans to maintain the grand illusion of wealth. He was essentially living a completely fraudulent life, pretending to be a wealthy entertainment mogul, while drowning in an ocean of mounting unpayable debt. So when Claressa Shields entered the picture, she wasn't just a romantic distraction. She was a potential financial lifeline that he could easily exploit and control. He looked at her massive athletic earnings, her major sports contracts, and her complete lack of financial literacy, and saw the perfect opportunity to secure his own future. He immediately began spending her money with absolute recklessness, convincing her to invest in fake shell companies and fraudulent entertainment ventures that he completely controlled. The level of manipulation was so incredibly deep that he even convinced her to fund the very same public relations team that was orchestrating the smear campaign. She was literally paying for the weapons that were being used to destroy her own public reputation, completely blinded by the false promises of a man she thought loved her. The public reaction to these shocking leaked details has been an absolute mix of widespread laughter and intense, universal disgust across all major social media platforms. Fans who once looked up to Papoose as the absolute blueprint for a loyal, supportive husband are now completely tearing him apart in the comment sections. The internet has officially revoked his status as a stand-up man, completely labeling him as a master manipulator who used his wife's tragic circumstances to enrich himself. Meanwhile, the commentary surrounding Claressa Shields has turned into a brutal, non-stop comedy show that she cannot escape no matter how hard she tries. The absolute mockery reached an all-time high when the leaked video of her post-track workout session went completely viral across the world. Watching a world-class professional athlete stand in the middle of a gym, completely dazed, swinging wildly at the empty air like a broken wind turbine was pure comedy. But the absolute highlight of the entire disaster was the fact that she was wearing two completely different, mismatched shoes on her feet. She was so incredibly disoriented, so deeply shaken by the powerful truth in that song, that she literally could not perform the most basic human function of putting on a matching pair of sneakers. The public clowned her so intensely that she actually had to hop on her stories the very next day to release a deeply embarrassing, highly defensive explanation. She desperately tried to tell the public that both pairs of shoes were black and sitting right next to each other, so she just didn't notice the difference in the dark. She was literally begging her followers not to think she was slow, which only made the entire situation look 10 times more pathetic than it already was. When you have to publicly explain to millions of people that you aren't intellectually challenged just because you can't put on shoes correctly, you have officially lost the war. The truth had her so incredibly shook up that her brain was completely short-circuiting, proving that no amount of physical boxing talent can protect you from a lyrical beatdown. She was out here trying to act tough, hitting the heavy bag to show the world that she was unfazed, but her own feet completely betrayed her secret panic. It showed the entire world that behind all the loud hooting and hollering she had been doing for months, she was completely out of her league. She had spent half a year screaming about how she was on Remy's mood board, claiming that the rap legend was secretly copying her style and her outfits. But the track completely flipped the mirror on her, exposing the fact that Claressa was the one obsessively stalking Remy's life, trying to recreate her image from scratch. Remy completely dismantled her ego by pointing out that Claressa was nothing more than a cheap fan who was desperately trying to occupy a space she could never truly fit into. The public instantly saw the reality. Claressa was just a temporary rebound being used as a human shield by a husband who was desperately running away from his own financial and personal failures. The ultimate betrayal, however, came at the exact end of the week when Papoose's highly anticipated Vlad TV interview clips began dropping across the internet. Instead of standing up for the woman he had spent months winding up, Papoose completely threw Claressa under the absolute biggest bus he could find. When the interviewer specifically asked him about the rumors of them living together, he didn't just deny it. He laughed directly in the camera with absolute, cold-blooded amusement. He acted as if the very idea of sharing a home with her was the most ridiculous, far-fetched concept he had ever heard in his entire life. He went even further, completely shutting down the rumors that they had exchanged wedding rings or commitment tokens during their secret trips. He casually stated that they had merely exchanged basic, friendly gifts, completely minimizing their entire relationship to a meaningless, casual acquaintance. He sat back in that chair, smiling and chuckling while the interviewer openly mocked Claressa's public appearance and her constant social media outbursts. He completely clowned her for the entire world to see, showing absolutely zero respect for the woman who had completely ruined her own career to defend his name. He proved right then and there that he never actually cared about her. She was just a disposable pawn in his sick, twisted game of revenge against Remy. He wanted to use her to hurt his ex-wife, but the moment the heat got too hot in the kitchen, he immediately discarded her like a piece of absolute garbage. The look of sheer embarrassment on Claressa's face must have been biblical as she watched the man she loved completely deny her existence on a massive public platform. She had sacrificed her endorsement deals, her athletic reputation, and her personal dignity for a man who wouldn't even admit to sharing an apartment with her. The entire smear campaign that they had so carefully constructed completely blew up directly in their faces within a matter of 24 hours. They thought they were playing a high-stakes game of chess, but they quickly realized they were playing checkers against a brilliant corporate mastermind who was 10 steps ahead. Every single lie they had planted, every single fake rumor they had leaked, was completely turned inside out and used to expose their own inner rot. And as the public backlash begins to reach an absolute fever pitch, the devastating fallout and legal consequences are just beginning to take shape, which brings us directly into the final crushing blow. The massive legal and professional fallout from this monumental disaster is now hitting their camp like an absolute tidal wave. And things are looking incredibly grim. Reliable legal sources are now confirming that a series of high-level corporate investigations have officially been launched into the financial records of the public relations firm they hired. Major sports entertainment companies and athletic commissions are reportedly looking directly into the paper trail of cash that was used to fund this entire defamation campaign. There are deep whispers that certain contractual clauses regarding moral turpitude and brand reputation have been heavily triggered by Claressa's chaotic social media behavior. Several major corporate sponsors who had long-standing, multi-million-dollar endorsement deals with the boxing champion are now reportedly in the middle of emergency meetings to cut ties completely. The public backlash has become so incredibly intense that these massive global brands cannot risk having their pristine corporate images associated with someone who publicly crashes out over relationship drama. Hypothetical financial crises are already looming over her camp, as leaked internal memos suggest that multiple upcoming televised matches are on the verge of being canceled entirely. Television executives simply do not want to allocate prime time slots to an athlete whose public image has been completely dismantled and turned into a universal laughingstock. Meanwhile, on the other side of this catastrophic equation, Papoose is reportedly facing a massive, devastating probe into his past business dealings and entertainment contracts. Entertainment lawyers close to Remy Ma's massive corporate network have allegedly filed a series of legal petitions to audit every single royalty check and production deal from the last 20 years. They are moving to legally expose the absolute fraudulence of his claims regarding his alleged contributions to her historic catalog of hit records. The tension is building to an absolute fever pitch in the industry because if these financial audits prove that he mismanaged or secretly diverted funds while she was away, he could be facing massive budget-breaking lawsuits. The sheer desperation coming from his side of the room is almost palpable as industry insiders report that he has been frantically calling network executives to salvage his media relationships. But the doors are slamming shut in his face one by one because nobody in the entertainment industry wants to do business with a tactical failure who throws his own allies under the bus. His historic reputation as a stand-up, respectable figure has completely dissolved into thin air, leaving him isolated, exposed, and deeply in debt. He tried to play a dangerous game of corporate sabotage against a woman who handles major business deals for breakfast, and he ended up destroying his own entire legacy in the process. The brilliant contrast between their complete ruin and Remy Ma's massive, ongoing success is honestly one of the most beautiful things the internet has ever witnessed. While they are out here frantically calling crisis management teams and trying to explain away their mismatched shoes and embarrassing interview clips, Remy is moving from strength to strength. Her brand new track is absolutely dominating the global music charts, racking up millions of independent streams, and proving that the public will always side with unvarnished truth over manufactured lies. She has successfully used their own hateful energy as fuel to completely elevate her business portfolio, locking in massive new production partnerships and television deals. She completely proved to the entire world that you cannot stop a true businesswoman who operates with absolute integrity, strategic intelligence, and undeniable talent. She sat back, stayed quiet for months, let them completely clown themselves in public, and then dropped a single lyrical masterpiece that ended their entire operation. This wasn't just a standard victory in a rap beef. This was a complete masterclass in how to successfully defend your corporate empire from low-level, bitter saboteurs. The truth has officially prevailed. The deceptive narratives have been completely burned to the ground, and the absolute destruction of their smear campaign is now fully complete. So there you have it, family. The dust has finally settled, the smoke has completely cleared, and the absolute reality of this entire situation is staring us right in the face. This was never just about a petty internet disagreement or a simple back and forth between public figures. This was a massive, highly calculated corporate takedown that completely backfired, because you simply cannot defeat the unvarnished truth. Remy Ma stood her ground like the absolute mogul she is, while certain individuals completely dismantled their own legacies on the global stage. But now, I want to hear directly from you, the realest audience on the internet. Do you think Claressa Shields can ever truly recover her public image after getting completely abandoned by Papoose on national television? Is this the absolute final curtain call for Papoose's historic reputation as a stand-up man in this industry? And how high do you think Remy Ma is going to take this massive momentum as she continues to lock down these multi-million-dollar business deals? Don't just sit there in silence. Drop your absolute honest thoughts, your wildest theories, and your raw reactions in the comment section below, because the discussion is heating up and I am reading every single word. If you want to stay completely ahead of the game with the absolute, most exclusive breaking updates on this historic fallout, make sure you hit that like button right now. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your post notifications, and share this video across all your platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep your eyes wide open, and we will catch you in the next absolute banger.